Alright, section 5 M in the swing trading course, buying and selling waves. Uh, let's start. Every up and down swing in the market, whether it amounts to many points, only a few points, or fractions of a point, consists of numerous buying and selling waves. They have duration, which is time, and they go as long as they can attract the following. So the point is, if they're attracting a following, the time will continue to go. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they've been attracting a following. So you have a swing up, for example, which you're looking at it. There's multiple ways to look at it. One is from the perspective of time. And when you look at it from the perspective of time, what you're trying to see is, whether it's attracting a following. And the whole point is, if there's duration, meaning if there's time, then people are buying it over time. So this is the time factor, it's known as duration. Another point to note is, if you're using a time frame, it can just be the number of bars. So let's say you're using, daily chart, and the swing is over 10 days. So the duration is 10. It's 10 days as well as 10 bars. So if you're using 15 minutes, it could be 3 bars if you're using a 5-minute chart. So number of bars is a nice little alternative to duration. It basically is the same thing, only when you're using time frame. If you're using tick, then it's a little different. By studying the relationship between the up and down swing, their duration, speed, and extent. Again, what is duration? Duration is time. What is speed? Speed is the amount of price change over time. It's actually momentum. So speed is the same thing as momentum in that it is a function of price and time. So amount of movement given the length of time. And extent is the change in price. So he's observing it from duration, speed, and extent, which is time, price change relative to time, and price change being extent. And comparing this with each other. So what you're doing is you're using these 3 factors and comparing them on the upswings and the downswings. By doing this, we are able to judge the relative strength of the bulls and the bears as price moves. That's the whole point. These 3 factors, duration, speed, and time, or time, price, and momentum, are you're looking at their values on the swing up and the swing down in order to determine who's stronger, the bulls or the bears. The relative strength of these swings is determined by looking at their time, price, and momentum. And by momentum, I mean the change in price relative to time. And that's it. So basically, it's which side has the greater pulling power. Upswing or the pullback, the rally or the pullback, the upswing or the downswing. All stock movements, however small or large, are made up of multiple buying and selling waves. Obviously, they're made up of many waves within waves, just like trends within trends. The market does not rise and fall like a waterfall, but it moves like in waves, up and down, rally, reaction, like surges, he gives the example of a tide. The small buying and selling waves which occur during every session run so many minutes being the key word, that they can attract the following, and he talks about that later. They are caused largely by restlessness of active professional traders much like the ripples in the wind upon an ocean. So he's saying that you have all of this back and forth, back and forth. It's never static. It's always buying and selling, and that's what's always going on. Traders must have activity. That's how they make their livelihood. They must have fluctuation. They engage in a ceaseless tug of war, trying to put prices up when the conditions of the market are favorable and down when they're not. The degree of success or failure attending their efforts enables us to determine whether the market is growing stronger or weaker. Basically, you're just seeing the pulling power of the upswings versus the downswings using price, time, and momentum. And later on, you can also experiment with volume, price, volume, and time. These small waves are part of the larger waves which run several days and make up multiple points. Okay. You can confirm this by examining any chart. It's important that you do so you think in waves. It's also a very important point, like thinking in waves. A lot of people, they have different thinking styles, and that's why some methods will not work with them. Like you have people that traders that they're very grounded in a certain type of style. So for example, momentum traders, they will not move away from their oscillators. Right? No matter what you do, they're gonna use those oscillators or whatever to see the momentum. You have So they're thinking from that perspective. They're looking for a certain thing, momentum. You have certain folks that are using candle patterns. They're thinking in terms of patterns. This candle pattern, that candle pattern, or some people are using chart patterns. They're thinking in terms of patterns. You have others who are, going to use a certain methodology like Elliott, and they cannot get away from it. It's so deeply ingrained that they just can't get away from it. And you have others who are profile traders who will see things off of levels. And I'm not saying that any of these are wrong. I'm just saying that it's different. Wyckoff is totally different. And his style, he talks about, is thinking in waves, and being able to judge price, time, and momentum, or price and volume, or price, time, and volume, whatever data you have on those waves, and being able to judge the relative strength of supply and demand based on these factors of price, time, momentum, of price, and volume. Anyway, so it's based on thinking in waves. So this is why when you look at volume, it is important to look at volume in waves. Now that doesn't mean you have to do that because, he did use a wave chart, so you can use different styles. Because it's very hard to replicate everything Wyckoff did. Anyway, when you are looking for an opportunity to buy and watch the down waves in the market and in your stock, after you have bought, you sit through a number of small, medium, and good-sized waves until you see a climax or a very strong rally, and that's when you get out. The waves of the market give you a clear insight in the changes of supply and demand. The waves in the market tell you which side has more relative strength. Alright. And eventually you learn how to judge the turning point. That's what this is saying. By observing these waves and looking at their characteristics of price and volume and time and whatever else, you'll learn how to judge when there is a reversal. To be able to say when these points are occurring at the bottom of a bear market or at any important rallying point on the way down is a mark of ability of a trader. Basically, if you can pick the turning points, if you have that skill of identifying turning points, that is one way of judging how good of a trader you are. If you have that ability to catch turning points, not just on the swings, but also, on the entire trends from bullish to bearish. So, catching tops and bottoms is I know a lot of people say, oh, don't do it, and understandably so. But the ability to catch them and identify reversals is the mark of a trader. Remember, the market itself tells us everything we need to know about its possible future action. Every significant change in supply or demand is registered on the tape. And when you have learned to analyze the market by its own action, as recorded on the tape, you will be proficient in the art of operating in stocks. So basically he's saying you have to be able to judge a market by what it is saying, by the data that it's providing in terms of price, volume, and momentum, and time. These factors, looking at those waves, this will allow you to make a judgment on the relative strength, and eventually you figure out how to catch turning points. So the most important thing is to be able to catch the top and bottom of not only trends but swings, and not only swings and trends, but being able to do this on multiple time frames. This is not easy. The ability to identify turning points intraday, the ability to identify turning points for swings, the ability to identify turning points for entire trends, and the ability to do that on different time frames is not an easy feat. Alright, most people cannot do it. But what he's saying is that if you master this branch thoroughly, it is vital. But there's one step more. Your education will not be complete unless you can exit your shorts at the bottom and go long at the bottom, and exit your longs at the top and go short at the top. So this is kind of like a test for you. Now, that doesn't mean go out and do it, because you probably be wrong. There's skills involved in identifying, how to catch these turning points. It's not that simple, but there are ways to do it. And he's going to go into these different skills, etc. But he says that it's not just a technical skill, because it requires great flexibility of mind, control of your emotions, and if you study and faithfully apply the Wyckoff method, you will be able to do it. Meaning, in this method, he teaches you how to do that. He teaches you about the turning points. He teaches you when to go long and when to go short. He teaches you how to trade the turning points, but I think a lot of it is in the second part of the course. So it has to be combined. But this whole method that Wyckoff put together, a major piece of it focuses on the turning points and the changes in the immediate trend, which is what? It's a turning point, a trend turning point. Changes in the immediate trend. And the second part of the course is very focused on this. Right? So we're done with what is this? 5M? 5M, done.